A wealthy fashion executive who built her empire by stealing her best friend's designs discovers 20 years later that the homeless woman she passes every day outside her headquarters is that same friend battling terminal cancer. Before we start the story, comment below which country you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Everyone. Isabella Reynolds stepped out of her gleaming black Bentley into the crisp autumn air of Manhattan, her Louboutin heels clicking sharply against the sidewalk as her driver held the door. The early morning sun glinted off the 40-story glass tower, bearing her name, Reynolds Fashion House, the crown jewel of her $2 billion empire. At 45, she had conquered the fashion world with ruthless precision, her designs adorning celebrities and royalty across the globe, her face gracing the covers of business magazines that celebrated her as a self-made icon. Her assistant Catherine hurried alongside her, rattling off the day's schedule. The board meeting at 9, the conference call with Milan. At 11, the photo shoot for Vogue. At 2, Isabella nodded, barely listening, her mind already racing with the decisions she would make today, the people she would impress, the competitors she would crush. It was the same routine she had followed for years, the relentless pursuit of success that had defined her existence since she was 25. As they approached the entrance to the tower, Isabella's gaze briefly caught on a figure huddled in a small alcove beside the building's grand doors, a woman wrapped in layers of tattered clothing, her face hidden beneath a worn scarf. It was the same homeless woman who had appeared outside the building nearly 6 months ago. Isabella had complained to building security countless times, but somehow the woman always returned, finding her way back to this spot like a stubborn shadow. Today, something about the woman made Isabella pause. Perhaps it was the way her thin hands clutched a small sketchbook, or how, despite her circumstances, she sat with a certain dignity. Catherine noticed her hesitation. Ms. Reynolds, is everything all right? Isabella shook her head, dismissing the momentary weakness. Just have security move her again, she said curtly. We have the charity gala tonight. I don't want our guests seeing that on their way in. Catherine nodded, making a note in her tablet. Isabella continued into the building, greeted by the respectful nods of security guards and the admiring glances of employees. She was their queen, untouchable, and feared the elevator whisked her to the penthouse office, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city she had conquered. But as she settled at her desk, a strange unease lingered. Something about the woman outside had disturbed her equilibrium in a way she couldn't explain. Shaking off the feeling, Isabella immersed herself in work, approving designs, rejecting others, berating an underperforming executive, until tears glistened in the young woman's eyes. The morning passed in a blur of power and purpose. But when her assistant brought lunch, a gourmet salad, from the exclusive restaurant downstairs, Isabella found herself drawn to the window, looking down at the tiny figure still sitting in the alcove far below. I told you to have security. Remove her, she snapped. Catherine shifted nervously. They did Ms. Reynolds twice, but she keeps coming back. The police won't take her because she's not technically trespassing in that spot, and she never bothers anyone. She just sits there drawing in that notebook. Isabella frowned, drawing, turning back to the window. A memory flickered at the edges of her consciousness, something about a sketchbook, about hands that created beautiful things, about a friendship long forgotten. She shook her head, pushing the thought away. By late afternoon, as preparations for the charity gala were underway, Isabella found herself irritable and distracted. The board meeting had gone well. The Milan call had secured an important partnership. The Vogue shoot had been flawless. Everything was perfect. So why did she feel this strange, hollow sensation in her chest? Why did her thoughts keep returning to the woman outside, like a compass needle finding north? Standing abruptly, Isabella grabbed her coat. I'm going out for air, she announced to Catherine, surprise. I'll be back in an hour. Make sure everything is ready for tonight. Before Catherine could respond, Isabella was gone, striding toward the elevator with purposeful steps. She told herself she was simply going to deal with the homeless woman personally to ensure she wouldn't return to mar the evening's festivities. But deep down she knew there was something more drawing her outside, something she couldn't name. The autumn air felt colder now. As the day waned, Isabella walked directly to the alcove where the woman said she had intended to be firm, authoritative, to use the same commanding tone that had cowed fashion moguls and celebrities alike. But as she approached, her steps slowed. The woman was hunched over her sketchbook, a pencil moving across the page with surprising grace. Despite her trembling hands, Isabella cleared her throat. Excuse me, this is private property, she began, her voice lacking its usual steel. The woman looked up slowly, lowering her scarf, and for the first time Isabella saw her face gaunt and weathered, yet with high cheekbones and eyes of striking blue eyes that Isabella recognized instantly, though they were now sunken and shadowed with illness. 20 years fell away in an instant, and Isabella found herself staring into the face of Olivia Matthews, her former best friend, her former roommate, the brilliant design student whose talent had far outshined her own, the woman whose sketchbook Isabella had stolen one fateful night, taking the designs that would launch her empire, while Olivia slept. Olivia. Isabella whispered the name foreign on her tongue. After so many years of forced forgetting, Olivia's cracked lips formed a small smile. "So you finally noticed me, Bella," she said softly, using the nickname only she had ever been allowed to use. "I've been waiting." Her voice was weak, but there was no mistaking it, the same voice that had once encouraged Isabella through late nights of studying, the same voice that had shared dreams of their future fashion house together, the same voice that had called her in panic when she discovered her sketchbook missing. Isabella felt the ground shift beneath her designer heels. How are you here? What happened to you?" she managed to ask, though she already knew the answer. She had happened to Olivia. She had stolen not just designs, but a future, a life, a dream. Olivia coughed, a rattling sound that shook her frail body. "It's a long story," she said, "but I don't have much time to tell it. Cancer stage for the doctors gave me 3 months. That was 4 months ago." Isabella stood frozen, unable to process the information, unable to reconcile this broken woman with a vibrant friend she had betrayed 20 years ago. "You should come inside," Isabella said, finally surprising herself with the offer. "It's getting cold." Olivia looked at her for a long moment, as if weighing something important. Then slowly, painfully, she gathered her few possessions and struggled to stand. Isabella instinctively reached out to help her, shocked at how light Olivia felt, how fragile, like a bird with hollow bones. "I can manage," Olivia murmured, but she didn't pull away as Isabella guided her toward the private elevator at the side of the building. Catherine's eyes widened when Isabella returned with the homeless woman, but a sharp look silenced any questions she might have had. "Ms. Reynolds, the gala preparation," she began. But Isabella cut her off. "Reschedule my afternoon. I'll be in my private office. Don't disturb me." Catherine nodded, confusion evident in her face, as Isabella led Olivia through the main office, past shocked employees, and into her personal sanctuary, a room few were ever allowed to enter. Once inside, Isabella helped Olivia to the plush sofa, then stood awkwardly unsure what to do with her hands. With her guilt, "You need a doctor," she said finally. "I can call my personal physician." Olivia shook her head. "No more doctors," she replied. "They can't do anything more except give me drugs that make me too foggy to draw, and drawing is all I have left." Isabella noticed the sketchbook clutched tightly in Olivia's hand like a lifeline. "Would you like some tea?" Isabella offered, falling back on social niceties to mask her turmoil. Olivia nodded, and Isabella busied herself with the electric kettle kept in her office, grateful for the distraction. While the water heated, she studied Olivia more carefully, noting the gauntness of her cheeks, the yellowish tint to her skin, the way her once lustrous brown hair now hung in dull wisps. This woman had been her closest friend, once her sister in all but blood. They had met in design school, both hungry for success. But while Isabella had been driven by ambition, by the desperate need to prove herself, Olivia had been driven by pure artistic passion. The kettle clicked off, and Isabella prepared 2 cups of tea, handing one carefully to Olivia. "Why are you here?" she asked finally. "Why outside my building?" Olivia took a sip of tea, closing her eyes briefly at the simple pleasure of warmth. "Sometimes the most direct route is the best," she answered. "I wanted to see you before I died." Isabella flinched at the bluntness. "I wanted to see what became of my dreams," she continued, looking around the opulent office at the awards lining the walls, the framed magazine covers featuring Isabella's triumphant face. Guilt surged through Isabella, sharp and unexpected. She had spent 20 years burying the memory of what she had done, convincing herself that Olivia's designs would never have succeeded. Without her business acumen, her connections, her ruthless determination, she had almost believed her own lies, almost forgotten the look of devastation on Olivia's face when she realized what her best friend had done. "I've worked hard for this," she said defensively. "I built this company from nothing." A faint smile touched Olivia's lips. "Not exactly from nothing, Bella. I recognize my graduate collection in your first fashion show. The silk draping technique was always my signature." She wasn't accusatory, merely stating facts. As if discussing the weather, Isabella opened her mouth to deny it, then closed it again. What was the point of lying now, when the truth sat Before her wrapped in rags, dying, I never meant to, she began, then stopped that. Too was a lie. She had meant to do exactly what she did. She had seen an opportunity and taken it, sacrificing her friendship, her integrity, her soul for success. Why didn't you fight me, Olivia? Why didn't you expose me? She asked the question that had lingered at the back of her mind for 20 years. Olivia looked down at her sketchbook, running her fingers over the worn cover. I tried, remember, she said softly. I called everyone I knew in the industry. But you had already told them I was unstable, jealous, trying to steal your success. No one would listen to me. Isabella remembered she had indeed spread those rumors as insurance poisoning the well before Olivia could drink from it, a preemptive strike, she had called it at the time. And then there was the lawsuit. Olivia continued. Isabella froze. She hadn't known about any lawsuit. I tried to sue you, but I couldn't afford to continue after the first year. You had too many lawyers, too much money. I was working 3 jobs just to pay rent. She coughed again. That terrible rattling sound. I gave up, eventually started over in Chicago. But then she gestured vaguely at herself, as if her current state explained everything else. Unable to bear Olivia's steady gaze, Isabella walked to the window, looking out at the empire she had built on a foundation of betrayal. The New York skyline glittered in the approaching dusk, beautiful and cold, just like her. What do you want from me now? She asked, her voice barely audible. Is it money, revenge? Olivia laughed, a sound that dissolved into coughing. Neither, she said when she could speak again. Money won't help me now. And revenge? She shook her head. Revenge is a luxury for those with time. I just wanted to see you to understand. She paused, gathering strength. I wanted to know if it was worth it. Isabella turned to face her. What? Olivia looked directly into her eyes. Was stealing my designs, destroying our friendship worth this? She gestured at the office, at Isabella herself. Was the success worth the price you paid? Isabella felt the question like a physical blow. Had it been worth it? She had wealth beyond imagination, global acclaim, power that few women ever achieved. And yet she lived alone, surrounded by people who feared rather than loved her. She had no family, having chosen never to marry or have children, no real friends, only competitors, allies, and employees. There was no one in her life who knew the real Isabella, no one she could be weak with, vulnerable with, human with. Before she could answer, a knock came at the door. Catherine's voice, calling through. Ms. Reynolds, the car for the gala is waiting downstairs. The guests of honor are expecting you in 30 minutes. Isabella closed her eyes, momentarily torn between the obligations of her empire and this unexpected reckoning with her past. Tell them I'll be late, she called back. Finally, there was a pause of disbelief before Catherine acknowledged the instruction. I should go, Olivia said, struggling to stand. You have important people waiting. Isabella moved quickly to her side. I'll have my driver take you, she offered, then hesitated. Where are you staying? Olivia's smile was tinged with irony. Nowhere, everywhere. The shelter. When there's space, a doorway. When there isn't, the words struck Isabella like slaps, each one a stark reminder of the divergent paths their lives had taken. Wait here, she said suddenly. Stay, I have to attend this gala. It's for charity, she added, as if that somehow mitigated everything else. But I'll come back, we can talk more, we can. Isabella struggled to articulate what she wanted, what she needed, perhaps a chance to explain, to apologize, though no apology could possibly suffice. Olivia studied her face. You don't owe me anything, Bella, she said softly. I didn't come for charity or pity, just closure. Isabella picked up her clutch purse, avoiding Olivia's eyes. I want you to stay, she insisted. My guest room is comfortable. You can rest properly, have a hot shower, eat a decent meal. She was babbling now, something she never did, her legendary composure crumbling in the face of this ghost from her past. Please, she added the word unfamiliar on her tongue. She hadn't said please and meant it in years. Olivia seemed to recognize the significance of that simple word. She nodded slowly. All right, I'll stay tonight. Isabella felt an unexpected rush of relief. She helped Olivia to her feet again, then escorted her to the private elevator that connected directly to the penthouse apartment above the office. Catherine waited by the main elevator, her expression a mixture of confusion and concern. Ms. Reynolds, who is, she started, but Isabella cut her off. This is an old friend. She's unwell and will be staying with me. Send up some food, enough for 2 people, and have someone purchase. She glanced at Olivia's worn clothing, appropriate sleepwear, toiletries, whatever she might need. Catherine nodded, making notes, but her eyes betrayed her curiosity. Isabella knew the rumors would start immediately. Speculation would run wild through the company about the mysterious, homeless woman the great Isabella Reynolds had brought into her inner sanctum. Let them talk, she thought, as she settled Olivia in the elevator. Let them wonder. The truth was far more damning than anything they could imagine. The charity gala was a blur. Isabella moved through it on autopilot, smiling for photographs, making the expected speech, accepting praise for her company's generous donation to cancer research. The irony of that didn't escape her, as images of Olivia upstairs in her penthouse kept intruding on her thoughts. These people worshipped her, admired her, envied her success. She had everything they wanted. And yet tonight, for the first time, she could see her life clearly, see the emptiness at its core, the moral void upon which everything was built. Returning home, she found Olivia asleep on the guest bed, her thin body barely making an impression on the expensive sheets. She had showered, her damp hair spread across the pillow, and changed into the silk pajamas Catherine had sent up. She looked peaceful, yet desperately ill, her breaths shallow, her skin too pale. Isabella stood in the doorway, watching her chest rise and fall, fighting the urge to run away from this living reminder of her greatest sin. Instead, she went to her own room, changed into night clothes, and lay awake, staring at the ceiling until dawn painted the sky in shades of gold. Over breakfast, a simple affair of toast and tea that was all Olivia could manage, Isabella found herself asking, "Why did you keep drawing all these years?" Olivia's sketchbook lay on the table between them, a presence as tangible as another person. Olivia glanced at it with a small smile. "It was the only thing that made sense after I lost everything," she said simply. "Designing was never about success for me. It was about creation, about bringing beauty into the world." Isabella remembered that about her, the pure joy Olivia had taken in the process, while Isabella had always focused on the end result, the accolades, the validation. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to the sketchbook. Olivia hesitated, then nodded, pushing it toward her with her thin hand. Isabella opened it carefully, as if handling a sacred text. Inside were dozens of sketches, designs that took her breath away with their innovation, their elegance, their sheer beauty. These were not the works of an amateur, or has been. These were masterpieces. Olivia had continued to evolve as an artist, even as her life crumbled around her, even as Isabella had built an empire on her stolen talent. "These are incredible," Isabella whispered, flipping through pages of evening gowns, casual wear accessories, all bearing Olivia's distinctive style, yet completely fresh, completely contemporary. "Why didn't you try again to break into the industry with these?" Olivia sipped her tea. "Too expensive," she said simply. "No connections, no materials, no credibility." A pause, then a small shrug. "And then the cancer. By the time I was diagnosed, it was already stage 4. I'd ignored the symptoms too long. No health insurance," she added with that same ironic smile that made Isabella wince. Isabella continued to turn the pages until she reached the most recent sketches and froze. These were different. These weren't fashion designs, but portraits, faces. Isabella recognized her own face, drawn over and over from different angles, different moments. Over the past 6 months, Olivia had been studying her, watching her. What she couldn't find words. "What is this?" Olivia set down her teacup. "I wanted to understand what 20 years had done to you," she said. "What success had turned you into weather. Happiness came with all this." She gestured at the luxury surrounding them. "I wanted to see if your eyes had changed." Isabella stared at the drawings, feeling exposed, vulnerable, as if Olivia had somehow captured not just her face, but her soul, her emptiness, her loneliness in every pencil stroke. "And what did you see?" she asked, barely audible. Olivia's blue eyes met hers directly, the same girl, scared of not being enough, scared that without success, without wealth, without power, you'd disappear. The words hit with precision, like arrows finding their target. Isabella had spent a lifetime running, building, climbing, achieving, all to outpace that exact fear that without those external markers of success, she would be nothing. The poor scholarship girl from Brooklyn, again invisible, worthless. "I've been thinking all night," Isabella said, changing the subject abruptly. "I want to help you. There must be experimental treatments, clinical trials, something." Olivia shook her head. "I've tried everything I could access," she replied. "I've made my peace with dying." Isabella flinched at the word. She had built her life around controlling everything, her company, her image, her environment. But this, she could not control the idea that Olivia would simply cease to exist in weeks, perhaps days, seemed impossible, unacceptable. "Then stay here," she said impulsively. "Let me take care of you for whatever time you have left." Olivia looked surprised. It was clearly the last thing she had expected. "You don't owe me that, Bella. I told you I didn't come for charity." Isabella stood pacing the kitchen. "I know it's not charity." She struggled to find the right word. "I need to do this," she finished lamely. It was inadequate, pathetic. But it was true she needed to do this, for reasons she couldn't fully articulate even to herself. Olivia studied her face. For a long moment, whatever she saw there seemed to satisfy her. "All right," she said finally, "but on one condition." Isabella waited. "Would I want to design again? Before I die," Olivia said. "One final collection. I want to see my ideas come to life just once." Isabella felt something crack inside her chest, like ice breaking in spring. "Of course," she said. "Whatever you need, I'll have fabrics. Brought samples, my entire team at your disposal." Olivia shook her head. "No, not your team. Just you and me, like before. Remember our apartment in design school, those all-nighters? We pulled the dreams, we shared the promises we made." Isabella remembered. She remembered everything, though she had tried so hard to forget the tiny apartment they had shared, the desk pushed against the window, where they would sketch together, the way Olivia would bring her coffee at midnight, the way they would finish each other's sentences, each other's designs. They had been inseparable until ambition had corrupted everything. "Yes," she whispered. "I remember." Olivia nodded. "That's my price. Work with me, create with me one last time." In the days that followed, Isabella rearranged her entire life, something she had never done for anyone. Olivia moved into the guest room permanently. A hospital bed was delivered along with medical equipment, and a private nurse who came daily to administer medications that helped manage Olivia's pain. Isabella postponed meetings, delegated decisions, shocked her executives with her sudden absence from the office. For the first time in 20 years, Reynolds' fashion house ran without its namesake at the helm. Instead, Isabella and Olivia worked together in the penthouse, converting the spacious living room into a design studio. Fabrics were delivered by the yard, sketches were pinned to every wall. As Olivia's vision took shape, she had chosen rebirth as the collection's themed designs that transformed, as they were worn pieces that changed color or drape with movement, garments that told stories of metamorphosis. Despite her weakening body, Olivia worked with feverish intensity, her hands shaking but her mind clear, her creativity undiminished. Isabella found herself transported back in time to when creation had been joy, not business, when fashion had been about beauty, not brand, when she had loved the process, not just the accolades. She watched Olivia sketch despite the pain, so despite the exhaustion, create despite the shadow of death, and something long dormant awakened in her own heart, a passion. She had forgotten, a purpose beyond success. She began to contribute her own sketches, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence, as Olivia encouraged her, praised her, challenged her, just like before. They fell into a rhythm, working together seamlessly despite the 20-year gap, finishing each other's thoughts, adding to each other's designs. In the evenings, when Olivia's strength waned, they would sit by the window overlooking the city and talk about everything that had happened in the years between, about the choices Isabella had made, about the consequences Olivia had suffered. "I was so angry for so long," Olivia admitted one night. "But anger is exhausting. Eventually, I just felt sad for both of us, for what we lost." Isabella couldn't meet her eyes. "I convinced myself you were fine, that you'd recovered, found success somewhere else, anything to justify what I did." Olivia smiled faintly. "The stories we tell ourselves to live with our choices. But you know what's strange?" she continued. "I think I'm happier now than you are with all your success." Isabella looked at her questioningly. "Even now?" Olivia nodded. "I never lost myself, Bella. Everything was taken from me. But not who I am." "Can you say the same?" Isabella couldn't answer. The question hung in the air between them, unanswerable, yet demanding a response. As weeks passed, Olivia grew weaker, the collection nearly complete. Isabella hired skilled seamstresses to execute the final pieces under their joint supervision, working from their shared designs, the original sketches, all signed with both their names, a symbol of reconciliation, of collaboration. 20 years delayed. Olivia insisted on no publicity, no announcement. She didn't want her name associated with the collection. She told Isabella, "This isn't about recognition anymore, it's about creation, about finishing what we started." Isabella understood, though it broke her heart to see Olivia's brilliance go uncredited. Once again, she had stolen Olivia's future, and now there wasn't enough time to give it back. All she could do was bear witness to this final flowering of talent, this last burst of creativity, before the darkness fell. As the collection neared completion, Olivia's health deteriorated rapidly. There were more bad days than good. The nurse visited more frequently. Pain medications were increased. Isabella found herself sleeping in a chair beside Olivia's bed, reluctant to leave her alone for even a moment, afraid of the inevitable end. that approached like a shadow lengthening at dusk. One morning, as winter sunlight filtered through the bedroom windows, Olivia woke with unusual clarity, her eyes brighter than they had been in days. The collection, she whispered. Is it finished? Isabella nodded. Yes, the last piece was completed yesterday. Olivia smiled. I want to see it all together. Just once, she said. Help me. Isabella carefully helped her from the bed into a wheelchair, pushing her into the living room, where 30 exquisite garments hung on racks arranged in perfect sequence. The Rebirth collection, a testament to what might have been what should have been. They moved slowly through the collection, Olivia reaching out with trembling fingers to touch each piece, murmuring words of approval or suggesting one final adjustment. Isabella watched, her face illuminated with joy, with pride, with the pure pleasure of creation. And in that moment, she understood what she had truly stolen 20 years ago, not just designs, not just success, but this transcendent joy, this authentic connection to something greater than ambition, greater than wealth, greater than power. When they had seen every piece, Olivia turned to Isabella, her face serene. I'm ready now, she said softly. Isabella knelt beside the wheelchair. What do you mean? Olivia took her hand. I've finished what I came to do. I've created beauty. One last time I found peace, even with you, perhaps especially with you. Isabella gripped her hand. No, you can't. There's more we can do together, more designs. The words sounded hollow, even to her own ears. Olivia shook her head. No, Bella, this is enough. This is perfect. I'm tired. That night, Olivia slept while Isabella sat beside her bed, watching the rise and fall of her chest growing shallower with each passing hour. In the pale light of dawn, Olivia opened her eyes one last time, finding Isabella's gaze. Was it worth it? She whispered the same question she had asked that first day. The question Isabella had never answered. Isabella felt tears on her cheeks, something she hadn't allowed herself in decades. No, she said finally, nothing was worth losing you. Nothing was worth becoming what I became. Olivia's lips curved in a small smile. It's not too late, she murmured. You still have time to choose differently. Her eyes closed, then her breathing slowed, and finally, with the morning light streaming through the windows, Olivia Matthews exhaled one final breath and was gone. Isabella held her hand for a long time. After whispering apologies and promises into the silence, the world continued outside. The window cars honked, pedestrians hurried to work, or phone buzzed with messages from people who needed decisions, approvals, directives, the empire demanding its queen return. But Isabella remained still, keeping vigil, learning how to exist in a world without Olivia all over again. The private funeral was small, just Isabella and a few care workers from the shelter where Olivia had sometimes stayed, people who had shown kindness to a dying woman without knowing her history, her talent, her significance. Isabella had Olivia cremated, her ashes scattered in the small community garden where she had apparently spent many hours sketching in her final months. There was no public announcement, no media coverage. The great Isabella Reynolds simply disappeared from public view for 3 weeks, mourning a woman no one knew existed. When she returned to her office, the executives waited nervously for direction, for explanation. Isabella called a board meeting, her first official act since Olivia had re-entered her life. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, I've made a decision. The room fell silent, all eyes focused on their formidable leader. Reynolds Fashion House will be launching a new collection, Rebirth, her voice steady and clear. But this collection will not bear my name alone. It will be credited to its true creators, Isabella Reynolds and Olivia Matthews. Murmurs of confusion spread through the room, but Isabella continued. All proceeds from this collection will go to a new foundation, the Olivia Matthews Fund, providing healthcare and artistic opportunities for homeless individuals. Furthermore, she took a deep breath. I am announcing my intention to step down as CEO. Isabella ignored the gasps, the shocked expressions. I will remain as creative director, but it's time for new leadership, new vision. She didn't explain further, didn't need to. The decision felt right, felt necessary, felt like the first honest choice she had made in 20 years. In the months that followed, the Rebirth collection debuted to universal acclaim. Critics hailed it as revolutionary, Isabella's most innovative work, yet the mysterious Olivia Matthews became a subject of intense speculation. Though Isabella revealed little about her former friend, only that she had been an early collaborator who had recently passed away. But within the company, the truth spread in whispers. The homeless woman, there terminal illness, the final collaboration. Isabella let the rumors flourish, neither confirming nor denying, letting Olivia's ghost haunt the halls of the empire built upon her talent. The Olivia Matthews Fund grew quickly. Isabella's personal fortune, ensuring its success. Design scholarships were established, homeless shelters, renovated healthcare programs, funded small revolutions in honor of a woman who had wanted nothing more than to create beauty in the world. Isabella herself changed gradually, but profoundly, the ruthless executive softening into someone more thoughtful, more compassionate. She began to mentor young designers, particularly those from underprivileged backgrounds, offering opportunities she had once hoarded for herself. On the anniversary of Olivia's death, Isabella sat alone in her office, a sketch from the Rebirth collection framed on the wall. Beside her, was it worth it? The question still echoed in her mind. Had the success been worth the price? She had paid the price Olivia had paid. She thought of a young Isabella, desperate for validation, willing to betray her closest friend for a chance at success. And the woman she had become, wealthy, powerful, respected, but hollow like a magnificent statue with nothing inside. Olivia's last words returned to her. It's not too late. You still have time to choose differently. Perhaps that was the gift Olivia had really given her, not forgiveness, not absolution, but the chance to begin again, to rebuild herself not as an empire, but as a human being, to find meaning beyond acquisition, beyond achievement. Isabella opened a new sketchbook, its pages blank with possibility. She began to draw not for fame, not for profit, but for the pure joy of creation, the way Olivia had taught her. The way she should have remembered. Isabella Reynolds continued to lead a successful company, but her greatest achievement came in the years after Olivia's death. In the lives she touched, the designers she mentored, the people she helped through the foundation. She no longer measured success in dollars or magazine covers, but in moments of genuine connection, in beauty created and shared, in wrongs, if not righted, then at least acknowledged. She would never fully repay her debt to Olivia, never truly atone for the theft that had shaped both their lives, but each day she tried, each day she made choices that honored the friend she had betrayed, the woman who had found the courage to seek closure before death, the artist who had reminded her that creation, not acquisition, was the true purpose of a creative life. The story of Isabella and Olivia teaches us that true success cannot be built on deception, that wealth and acclaim mean nothing without integrity, that it's never too late to acknowledge our wrongs and attempt to make them right. Isabella lost 20 years to ambition and fear, but in the end found redemption not through grand gestures, but through simple honesty, through facing the consequences of her actions, through choosing differently while she still had time. What did you think of Isabella and Olivia's story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Rate this story on a scale from 0 to 10. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to follow all our stories, and check out more heartwarming tales by clicking on the end screen.